Nice leg, old man. The laugh that follows is small, mean, the kind that hides behind sunglasses. Heat sits heavy over the marble. Boots strike stone, 21 steps measured like a heartbeat, and a rifle gleams as it turns with the sun. The crowd murmurs, then stills. And if stories of duty and sacrifice move you, subscribe now, because some moments at Arlington don't ask for words, they demand them. A breeze lifts the small flags in the hedges. SPC Daniel Reeves feels it slide across his cheek like a warning. He is in mid-stride on the plaza, left heel poised above the groove he knows without looking. His world is the white of the tomb, the black of his brim, the geometry of respect. But the sound knifes through his training. One sneer, two snickers, aimed at a gray-haired Marine with a carbon fiber leg and dog tags wound in his fist. Reeves doesn't look. Looking is breaking. The oath is the seam that holds him together. He holds the count in his head. 2, 3, 4. Turn. The M14 is an extension of breath and bone, oiled walnut under glove, steel balanced against the old names carved in silence. The rope line at his flank thrums with the crowd's fidgeting, rough velvet brushing knuckles, camera straps squeaking. He hears sunscreen pumps, he smells hot stone and faint gun oil. He keeps the line. The veteran, Jack Callahan, does not answer the insult. He squares himself on the plaza's edge as if facing an old formation. The sun catches his silver hair. His lips press tight. Those tags in his hand click once, a private metronome of memory. A child tugs a mother's sleeve. An old man removes his cap without being asked. The man in sunglasses does not. Reeves reaches the end of his 21. He pivots, precise, toe to heel, and the steel heel plate kisses the marble with a clock's confidence. The rifle rises. The plaza inhales. He traces the line past the crowd, and that's when the tourist says it again, louder, for his phone this time, because courage grows when cameras do. Take a picture, babe, the toy soldier and the Tin Man. A heat flares in Reeves's chest, not from the sun. His training puts a hand on his shoulder, eyes front. Count your steps, guard the unknown, guard the line. He places his foot exactly where the groove waits. He moves like a human compass. Two figures shift in his periphery. One is the veteran, who bows his head a fraction, as if to someone only he can see. The other is a silhouette in the shade just beyond the arch, SSG Elijah Brooks, Tomb Guard commander. Brooks watches the plaza the way a hurricane watches the coast. His gaze stays on the rope, the edges, the places where respect can leak. Reeves breathes. His pulse matches the cadence he was given. This watch is forever. Through thunder, through riot, through grief that keeps inventing itself, this watch is forever. He swallows the insult on the veteran's behalf because the oath demands stillness, stronger than pride. But then, something quivers at the rope line. A sneaker toe creeps past the velvet, a small step. A testing. The tourist glances to either side, grin coltish, phone held low. Maybe he wants a daring angle. Maybe he wants to film the guard ignoring him and post about how the military has gone soft. Either way, it's a breach. Reeves stops. It is not a stumble. It is not uncertainty. It is a halt cut from granite. Mid-step, mid-breath, he freezes the world. The rifle angles a hair in the sun. The butt plate gleams like a warning. Heat trembles. The plaza goes silent in layers. The cicadas dim. The stroller wheels hush. Even the disrespect has to swallow. Sight narrows to the rope, the shoe, the man's smirk. Reeves turns his head the smallest allowable degree. His voice is measured iron. Sir, maintain the line. The words carry, clean, without strain. They are not for the tourist alone. They are for every grave in sight. They vibrate the marble. The veteran lifts his eyes, a flicker of surprise in them, at the young soldier's restraint, at the strength it takes to speak evenly when blood asks to shout. The tourist laughs again, but it's thinner now, gutted by the quiet. Relax, toy soldier, he says. I'm just getting a better shot. A better shot. Reeves's jaw tightens under ceremonial stillness. He hears the click of a camera shutter somewhere and the wet tang of humidity about to break into rain. He thinks, unbidden, of the tomb's first watch, of all the boots that have walked this groove until the marble knows their names even if the world doesn't. He thinks of the unknowns, World War I, World War II, Korea. Men without names but with mothers, fathers, letters that never arrived. He thinks. Not on my line. He moves. 3 deliberate paces, never rushed, never sloppy. He plants himself between the rope's suggestion and the marble's demand. The rifle snaps to the guard's shoulder, not menacing, not performative, simply undeniable. The steel sings a short, crisp note in the heat. "Sir," Reeves says, voice deeper now, "stand behind the rope." Sunglasses tilt, a lip curls. Freedom of speech, right? Faint stir in the shade. Brooks shifts a fraction forward. The commander's steps are softer than thunder and heavier than law. He was born for this silence, for this exact second. The crowd senses the air changing, like a storm's first cool sigh. Somewhere, a baby hiccups, then quiets as if the plaza itself raised a hand. The veteran's dog tags click again. He's still on the rope's safe side, shoulders squared, but his eyes shine, and he breathes like a man counting through pain. He does not ask for help. He does not need to. The plaza is a covenant. The guard is the pen. The tourist lifts his phone, thumb hovering above record. "Go ahead," he smirks to his unseen audience. "Let's see the statue talk." Reeves doesn't glance at the camera. He doesn't need spectacle. He needs the hurry line. His next word builds in his chest, but another voice breaks the hush first, deeper, commanding, a bell over a battlefield. "Remove your hat, now." Thunder rolled over the hills of Arlington. Rain began to speckle the marble, soft at first, then harder, as if heaven itself were holding its breath. The crowd didn't move. The man with the phone, Ryan Cole, froze mid-smirk. The Tomb Guard commander had stepped from the arch. His presence shifted the plaza like a new gravity. SSG Elijah Brooks, lean and precise, stopped 3 paces from the rope. Water streaked across his brim, dripping from the bill in steady rhythm. His voice cut through the rain like a blade. "You will remove your hat," he repeated, tone flat, each syllable spaced like a rifle volley. Cole hesitated. The veteran, Jack Callahan, stood beside him, still, patient, the Marine bearing even under insult. The rain slicked his prosthetic leg, made it shine like metal honor. Cole gave a weak laugh. "It's raining, man." Brooks's eyes didn't flicker. "This place has seen worse." Lightning cracked over the hill. A gasp rippled through the onlookers. Some shifted back, hands on children's shoulders. Reeves, the sentinel, didn't move. Rifle fixed, boots locked. His uniform clung to him, soaked but immaculate. The air smelled of wet granite and gun oil. Brooks stepped closer to the rope. He didn't raise his voice, but it carried over the thunder. "That man gave a limb for your freedom to stand there." Cole's jaw worked. "Freedom means I can laugh if I want." A flicker of lightning painted Brooks's face silver. He blinked once, slow. "Freedom means you choose to honor those who gave you the right, or you prove you don't deserve it." The words struck harder than the thunder that followed. Callahan lowered his gaze. His hand found his dog tags and squeezed them until his knuckles whitened. The crowd hushed completely now, rain hammering the stone, echoing like distant drums. Reeves kept his stance, inner muscles quivering with the urge to do more, to say more. But discipline is a shackle built of pride and prayer. He held it. Brooks's voice dropped an octave, not louder, but heavier. "You're standing in a cemetery of heroes, son. They gave everything. The least you can give is silence." Cole's eyes darted toward his phone screen. The red record light blinked. His fingers trembled. You think you can order me around out here?" Brooks didn't move closer, didn't threaten. He simply pointed to the white marble of the tomb. The inscription shone pale under the storm. "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." Brooks said quietly, "That order was given long before you were born." Cole swallowed, but pride burns hotter than shame. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, half to himself, half to the crowd that dared not breathe. Then, something impossible happened. From the flagstaff nearby, the rope cracked as wind tore through, sending the flag snapping wide in the stormlight. The sound was a cannon. Boom! And every head turned skyward. The stars and stripes whipped in the gray, soaked and fierce. Brooks didn't look away. His eyes stayed on Cole. "That flag," he said, "doesn't wave because of the wind. It waves because of the breath they can't take anymore." The rain softened for a heartbeat, just enough for the words to land. Cole's phone dipped lower. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Behind him, Callahan finally spoke, voice gravel from old battles. "Son, you don't have to respect me, but you will respect them." Cole's sunglasses slid down his nose. His eyes were red, not from tears yet, but from something close. He took a breath, half rain, half guilt. "I didn't—" Brooks cut him off, not with anger, but something colder. "Leave the plaza, reflect on your words, then come back when you understand the cost." Cole blinked, unsure whether to obey. The rain beat harder, drumming against his shoulders. He turned, stumbled once, then stepped back behind the velvet line. Reeves resumed his march, the rhythmic click of his heels slicing the storm into order again. 21 steps, turn, present arms, repeat. The thunder quieted into distant grumbles. The crowd began to drift, reverence restored by the weight of silence. Brooks remained still, eyes on the tomb. Callahan stood beside him, water running down his weathered face. The veteran spoke softly. "Thank you, Sergeant." Brooks shook his head. "He'll thank you someday." Lightning flared again, brighter, closer. Brooks looked toward Reeves, watching the young guard's shoulders move through the rain, steady, unwavering. Duty didn't rust, not here. Holloway, the senior NCO observer, had arrived silently, standing under the eaves. He met Brooks's eyes across the distance, a nod exchanged between men who had seen storms before. Then, faintly, through the rolling thunder, came another sound. A ping. Brooks frowned. On the wet marble near the rope, something small and black had fallen. Cole's phone, its cracked screen glowed for a moment before shorting out. On it, paused mid-frame, Brooks's own face stared back, lips parted on the words, "That man gave a limb for your freedom." The commander bent, lifted it carefully, water dripping from the device. He turned toward Holloway. "Find him," he said, "before the story does." Lightning boomed again, close enough to rattle the ground. Somewhere beyond the hill, the honor guard's bugle began to sound through the rain, slow, mournful, unrelenting. And as Brooks straightened, the phone's screen flickered one last time, then went black. Rain still whispered on marble long after the crowd had gone. Night had fallen over Arlington like a dark flag, thick clouds hanging low, lights from the eternal flame flickering against the sheen of wet stone. The plaza smelled of rain and oil, the faint metallic breath of rifles drying under the canopy. SPC Daniel Reeves marched alone now. His uniform clung to him, soaked through, but his cadence never faltered. 21 steps, halt, turn, present arms, repeat. The sound of his boots echoed like a heartbeat through the plaza, steady, unbreakable, lonely. Somewhere behind the columns, a figure watched him in silence. MSG Trent Holloway, the senior NCO observer, stood half in shadow. He'd seen storms before, real ones, the kind that didn't come from clouds. "Guard." Holloway's low voice broke the rhythm. Reeves stopped mid-step, turned cleanly, rifle vertical before him. "Sir." Holloway stepped closer, rain dripping from his cap brim. "You did well today." Reeves's eyes flicked once toward the tomb, then back. "I stayed in line, Sergeant Major. That's the job." "The job," Holloway said quietly, "is to hold the line. But sometimes, son, that line runs through your chest." The young guard said nothing. The night wind carried a shiver through the trees, wet leaves rattling like whispers of the fallen. He wanted to say it. The words pressed at his throat. I should have done more. He wanted to step forward, to shove that tourist back himself, to defend the old Marine with something louder than ceremony. But the tomb teaches silence before rage. Finally, he said, "Permission to speak freely." Holloway nodded once. "I watched that man mock someone who lost a leg for this country. I stood here, like a statue." Holloway's eyes softened but stayed steel. "Statues don't feel anger, Reeves. Soldiers do. What matters is what you do with it." The young guard looked down at his reflection rippling in the puddled marble. His gloves were soaked, his breath misting in the cold. "I took the oath," he murmured, "to guard the unknowns. But sometimes it feels like I'm guarding them from the living more than from time." Thunder murmured in the far hills. The flag above snapped once in a gust, the sound sharp as a salute. Holloway's tone lowered. Every guard that's ever stood here's fought that same war, Reeves. We stand in silence, not because we're weak, but because we remember for those who can't. Reeves exhaled slowly, eyes tracing the engraving on the tomb. The words gleamed wet under the lamps. He thought of the veteran's face, weathered, proud, holding back tears. He thought of the tourists' laughter and the way it echoed off the stone like an insult to every grave within sight. He whispered, "They gave everything, and people still forget." Holloway's boots shifted closer. "That's why we don't." Lightning flared, just enough to paint the tomb in white fire for an instant. Reeves standing before it, rifle upright, rain streaking his face, a photograph waiting to be taken by time itself. Then came the sound of a cane tapping softly on stone. Reeves turned. Out of the rain-washed darkness came veteran Jack Callahan. No escort, no fanfare, just a limp that matched the rhythm of the falling rain. "Evening, Sergeant," Callahan said quietly. His voice rasped like gravel dragged across memory. "Sir," Reeves replied, straightening reflexively, "you shouldn't be out here in this weather." The old Marine chuckled once. "I've been through worse." He looked at the tomb, his jaw tightening. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd pay them one more visit." Holloway nodded in respect and stepped back, giving the two men their space. Callahan stood beside Reeves, both men facing the white stone. For a moment, they said nothing, just listened to the rain tapping the marble, the endless rhythm of the watch. Then Callahan reached into his coat pocket. His hand shook slightly as he pulled out a folded piece of paper, edges soft and worn with years. "Carried this for 50 years, he said. "Wrote it for a friend who never came home from Da Nang, never had a place to leave it, until now." He looked at Reeves, eyes glinting in the lamplight. "Mind if I set it down?" Reeves swallowed. "It would be an honor, sir." The veteran stepped forward, slow, deliberate, and knelt on his prosthetic knee before the tomb. The rain darkened the paper instantly as he laid it gently against the marble base. He whispered, barely audible, "You were never forgotten, brother." Reeves' throat closed. His hands trembled where they gripped the rifle. The old Marine straightened with effort, breath ragged but proud. He looked to Reeves again. "You know, son, I saw you today, standing there in that rain. You didn't flinch. That's what it means to remember. Not the speeches, not the parades, just the standing." Reeves nodded, unable to speak. His eyes followed the paper fluttering slightly under the downpour, words blurring into the marble, ink and rain mixing like blood and water. Callahan gave a small salute, then turned to leave. But before he stepped away, he paused, looking back over his shoulder. "Guard," he said softly. "You keep doing what you're doing. The rest of the country may forget, but men like me, we sleep better knowing you're here." Then he disappeared into the mist. Reeves stood alone again, shoulders squared, rifle gleaming in the lamplight. The rain had soaked through everything, but he didn't move to wipe it away. He just whispered, to no one and everyone, "I'll guard them from the living, too." Lightning flashed once more, capturing him like a statue in mid-prayer. Helmet bowed, rifle upright, surrounded by the silence of the honored dead. From somewhere beyond the arch, Brooks watched unseen, his face unreadable, but his eyes carried a pride too sacred to show. And under the eternal flame's soft glow, the folded letter began to dissolve into the stone, becoming part of the tomb forever. Morning crept over Arlington in gray silence. Mist pooled between the rows of white headstones, blurring them into ghostly ranks. The air was cold, clean, smelling of dew and marble. Birds dared a few soft calls, but even they seemed to lower their voices near the tomb. SPC Daniel Reeves stood on the plaza again, uniform pressed, boots gleaming from pre-dawn polish. Sleep hadn't come easy. The image of that letter dissolving in the rain lingered behind his eyes, words bleeding into stone until only reverence remained. SSG Elijah Brooks stepped from the archway, clipboard tucked under his arm, eyes on the tomb. His gait was, as always, precise. To watch him walk was to watch discipline turned into poetry. "Guard," he said, his tone even. Sir. Reeves pivoted crisply to face him. Brooks scanned him once, no correction needed. You were on watch during the storm. You held the line. Yes, Sergeant. Brooks looked past him to the mist. Storm's cleared. The crowd will return today. Tourists, veterans, children. We reset the standard. Always. Reeves hesitated. Sir, about yesterday. That man, Cole, he's not what stayed with me. Brooks raised an eyebrow slightly. Reeves nodded toward the tomb. It's the veteran, the letter he left. Brooks's voice softened. You read it? No, sir, I didn't need to. The commander studied him for a long moment, then exhaled slowly. Some lessons, guard, aren't written down. They're handed over like rifles, wordless. A faint sound broke the mist behind them, soft steps on marble, uneven but steady. Both men turned. Jack Callahan was back. The Marine looked older in daylight, the weight of the years visible now that the storm wasn't hiding him. He carried something under his arm, a small folded flag and a new envelope sealed in plastic. Reeves moved to meet him, instinctively stepping down from the line. Brooks didn't stop him. Callahan gave a weary smile. Morning, son. I hope I'm not breaking any rules. Reeves shook his head. No rules when it comes to respect, sir. The veteran stepped closer to the tomb, his prosthetic leg clicking softly with each step. The mist caught around him, curling like smoke. He placed the folded flag beside the tomb's base, setting the envelope atop it. I came to leave something else, he said. The letter from last night, it was for my friend. This one's for you guards. Brooks stepped forward slowly. For us? Callahan nodded. For every man who's stood watch here and everyone who will. You all guard more than marble. You guard what this country forgets until moments like yesterday remind it. He turned to Reeves. That man, Cole, he'll remember. Maybe not the words, but the way this place made him feel. Shame, awe, the kind that wakes a man up. Reeves's throat tightened. He dropped his phone when he left. The commander has it. Callahan smiled faintly. Then he dropped something else too. His pride. Sometimes you have to lose it to see what matters. A light wind moved through the plaza, clearing some of the mist. Sunlight began to pierce the cloud line, scattering gold across the marble. The tomb glowed like a promise kept. Brooks took a step forward, voice quieter than usual. You served in Vietnam, correct? Marine Corps, Callahan said, chin lifting. Charlie Company, 68. Lost my leg in Quang Tri. Lost my best friend, too. He's the one I wrote to. Brooks nodded. You're home now. He is, too. The old Marine's lips trembled into a small, proud smile. Took me 50 years to believe that. Reeves stood beside him, shoulders squared. The three men faced the tomb together. For a moment, none spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of all the voices that no longer could speak. Then, out of the corner of his eye, Reeves noticed movement beyond the gate. A figure approached slowly, head bowed, hat in hand. Ryan Cole. No sunglasses, no phone. His clothes were plain, his expression raw, like someone who had seen himself in the wrong mirror. The guards tensed, but Brooks raised a hand. Let him come. Cole walked until he stood just beyond the rope line. His shoes splashed lightly through a puddle. He looked up at the tomb, then at the old Marine beside it. Sir, he began, voice rough, I came to say something. Callahan turned fully to him, posture straight as parade rest. Go ahead. Cole swallowed hard. His eyes were red. I didn't understand. Not what this place meant, not what you gave. I thought all this ceremony was for show. Reeves watched the man's hands. They were shaking. Cole took a breath that hitched halfway out. But when the guard stopped mid-step, when the commander spoke, I saw it. I saw what respect looks like, and I realized I'd forgotten what it feels like. The veteran nodded once, slow. Then you remember now. Cole nodded back. Yes, sir, and I'm sorry. The old Marine extended his hand, scarred and steady. Apology accepted. Cole reached out hesitantly and shook it. His fingers trembled. If it's all right, I'd like to pay my respects. Brooks's voice carried across the plaza, firm, not loud. Step forward. Cole crossed the rope. The crowd, small now but watching, fell completely silent. He walked to the tomb, every footstep echoing like penance. He stopped, removed his hat, and knelt. The marble reflected him back, one man, small against the white monument of sacrifice. The sound of the flag overhead flapped once, sharp, before settling again. A single tear rolled down his cheek, darkening the stone where it fell. Reeves saw it. So did Brooks. So did the old Marine. And in that silence, holy and unbroken, respect was reborn. Then Brooks's radio crackled softly, Holloway's voice faint through static. "Sir, local news picked up the footage. The video's spreading fast." Brooks glanced toward the horizon, jaw tightening. "Let them. See?" He looked back at the three men before the tomb, the young guard, the old Marine, and the once proud tourist, now bound by one shared truth. Respect isn't requested. It's earned. Thunder murmured again in the distance, softer now, like a salute from the departing storm. The noon sun struck the plaza like glass on fire. Every edge of the tomb of the unknown soldier glowed white, the marble so bright it made people squint even behind sunglasses. Flags rippled across the horizon, their colors vivid against a sky scrubbed clean by the storm. The crowd was larger than usual, reporters, tourists, veterans in faded caps, children clutching little flags. They'd come because of the video, the one where a tomb guard stopped mid-step and the commander's voice thundered over the storm. "That man gave a limb for your freedom." They'd come to see the faces behind those words. SSG Elijah Brooks stood at parade rest beside the tomb. His eyes never left the rope line. No one had crossed it since. SPC Daniel Reeves walked his post with the same unbreakable precision as always, rifle gleaming, steps measured, the click of his heels echoing through the still air. But today, the rhythm felt different. The plaza wasn't merely watching him march, it was listening. Veteran Jack Callahan waited quietly near the edge, prosthetic leg polished, his Marine cap folded under one arm. Ryan Cole stood beside him, head bowed, hat in hand. No cameras, no phone, just respect. A child whispered, "Is that the man from the video?" Her father hushed her. "Yes, watch." Reeves halted at his mark. The silence deepened until it was heavy enough to feel. He turned, rifle snapping to his shoulder, every motion exact. The reflection of the flag shimmered across his weapon's steel. Then Brooks stepped forward and faced the gathering, his voice carried steady across the plaza. "Every hour of every day, soldiers stand guard here, not for fame, not for applause, but for them, the unknown, the forgotten, the fallen who can no longer speak." He paused, letting the words sink into the marble. "In times like these, respect seems rare. But this ground," he gestured to the tomb, "doesn't care about rank, wealth, or politics. It cares about sacrifice." Reeves' boots struck stone again. The crowd flinched at the crispness of it. Every strike felt like a heartbeat of America's conscience. Brooks turned slightly toward Callahan. Yesterday, a man mocked what he didn't understand. Today, he stands beside the one he mocked. All eyes went to Ryan Cole. The man's throat bobbed as he stepped forward, nerves visible in every motion. His voice, when it came, was rough but clear. "I came here a tourist," he said. "I leave a student." The words carried through the warm air like a benediction. I laughed because I didn't know what I was seeing. A soldier standing still in the rain. I thought it was performance. But then I realized it was protection. It was a promise. He turned toward the tomb, his voice trembling. "To everyone who ever gave their life for this country, I was wrong." Cole dropped to one knee before the tomb. Not staged, not scripted, just one man humbled by what he'd witnessed. Callahan, the Marine, stepped forward beside him, his prosthetic clicking softly, and saluted. Then something remarkable happened. The crowd began to follow. Veterans raised trembling hands in salute. Parents knelt beside their children. Even the tourists who didn't know the full story felt it, the weight of what the place meant. In the shimmering heat, the plaza became utterly still again. Reeves halted mid-stride, watching. For a heartbeat, he didn't feel like a guard or a soldier. He felt like a witness to a kind of peace no parade could ever march. He glanced at Brooks, whose eyes glistened with pride he'd never admit aloud. The commander's voice came low, steady. "Some men are taught respect," he said. "Others earn it, right here." The words rolled through the plaza like a command, like a vow. A breeze rose from the Potomac, lifting the flags, carrying the faint scent of cut grass and stone dust. The sun caught the tomb's inscription again. Here rests, in honored glory, an American soldier, known but to God. The air shimmered with quiet reverence. Cole remained kneeling, head bowed. Callahan's hand stayed to his brow. Reeves resumed his march. 21 steps, turn, rifle to shoulder, eternal rhythm, eternal promise. Then, an unexpected sound. Applause? No. It was the gentle tap of Brooks's heel to marble, a single salute answered by Holloway in the distance. No words, no ceremony. Just soldiers acknowledging what had been restored. A photographer across the crowd lifted a camera, but Brooks's gaze stopped him cold. This moment wasn't for publication. It was for the fallen. Reeves completed his final turn. As he passed the tomb once more, a ray of sunlight broke through the clouds overhead, scattering gold across the marble. For an instant, the inscription burned brighter than the sky itself. The crowd watched in silence. Some cried, others just stood, hands over hearts, as if they'd rediscovered something lost. And when Brooks finally gave the order, "Ready, halt!" Reeves stopped, rifle glinting in the sunlight, eyes forward. No one spoke. For once, even the world seemed to understand the command of silence. Somewhere in that silence, a lesson had been carved into every witness. Respect isn't demanded, it's reflected. And if you believe the world needs more stories like this, stories of duty, reverence, and sacrifice, subscribe now and help keep their watch alive.